I'm Mike Bresnahan with the Los Angeles Times, next to Jonathan Feigen with the Houston Chronicle. Jonathan, what happened to your team tonight?
Isn't that amazing?
Lakers by 40 points. What went on out there?
Well, I think a few things went wrong. They started missing shots, and because of that, they started pressing and taking bad shots and not getting back defensively. And when they pressed, and with more misses, they pressed more. Some really bad turnovers that got the Lakers running. It was basically almost everything that they needed to do well, that they did do well in Game 4, they did horribly tonight. All that checklist, you go right down the list of things they had to do, and they just absolutely fell apart in those areas.
You know, almost a mirror image, a bizarro mirror image for the Rockets. Obviously, the Lakers enjoyed it. It was almost a reverse of Game 4. I mean, the Rockets were up 29 in that game. Lakers up 29 by the time the third quarter rolled around in tonight's game. Really a shocker for me.
It is amazing. When do you see a series with back-to-back games like that?
Yeah.
I couldn't think of one. Use routes in series every now and then, things get out of hand. But in consecutive games like that, just incredible. And it was similar in that the Lakers were not their best in Game 4. The intensity was missing. The energy was missing. The Rockets became that way, where and in their case, it was more focus, where they were wayward in a lot of ways. They just fell apart. The Lakers fell apart maybe in terms of passion. The Rockets did in terms of focus.
Yeah, you know, funny thing about the Rockets, their three-point shooting was so good in Game 4. Tonight, 5 for 29, 17%, right around there. Just a totally different story as far as outside the arc. The Lakers think they figured out this team without Yao. They're going to pack the middle, force the Rockets to shoot these threes. If they fall, they might win. If they don't, they're going to get trounced.
And the Rockets know that's what they've got left. You know, without Yao, without Tracy, who was a guy, maybe not so much this year, but throughout his career, who could create not just for himself, but for others, they got to move the ball and hit threes. 29 threes sounds like a ridiculous number, but they figure that's what they're shooting now. As long as this season is alive for them, they're shooting around 30 threes a game. Teams typically do that, where at home they can hit, on the road it's tougher. It's hard when you're relying on that.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is, after the game the other night, there was some sentiment. This might be the Rockets' last gasp. It was a great game. It was a great Game 4 for the Rockets, but that might be what happened. It might be what happened. It'd be nice if I could talk today. Obviously, tonight, the Rockets were gasping the entire game.
Yeah, that wasn't their last hurrah.
Yeah.
You know, and did they put everything into that and have not much left when they got here? I guess we'll see when we get to Game 6. I tend to think you get home, that crowd is up and energetic, and they will be as well. It will be a lot tougher than Game 4 was. The Lakers are not going to do that again. But I tell you what, this season, whenever the Rockets are bad, when things are their worst, they're their best. Well, they haven't been this bad. This is the worst. I don't know how good they'll be, but they usually do bounce back.
Yeah, that was the thing. You know, we heard about how well they had played without Yao in the lineup. Tonight we saw how poorly they could play without Yao in the lineup. Jonathan, we'll see you back in Houston 2 nights from now. Could be Houston's last game of the season.
Yeah, well, we see you back here. I don't know. It would be a great way for the series to end, would be for it to end here.
I know you want your airline points and your hotel points. I think this is your last trip to L.A. for this season.
Well, it'll still be here next. Either way, it's an interesting series, but boy, that would be some way for it to come to a conclusion with a Game 7. And what it would take to get it here would be really something. That would be just an incredible game. Yeah. So, you know, with this series, I'm not ready to assume anything.
Well, we'll see you in Houston.